Hi everyone, it's Chris from Calla Lily Studio, here today with a turkey tutorial. I was going to give you some instruction on how to make a pyramid card into a place card using a turkey. If you looked at my last video, you will see the instructions on how to make the actual pyramid card itself. On this one I used 3 squares. They're a little bit smaller. I used 3.5 inch on this one just to make it a little smaller, but you can make it any size you want. But check out that last video if you want to see how to make the actual base of the place card. I thought I'd done a little bit of work ahead of time just so that the tutorial wouldn't go too long, but I wanted to show you how to do the face. This is the ornament punch that I use, Stampin' Up's ornament punch, but you could use a circle. I just cut off the top part. You could use a circle or whatever works for you. I like the tip of the little point of the ornament comes together kind of nicely. So for the eyes I used the, I can't remember what we call this, slot punch I think, and just used it on the end of white paper to make the eyes and cut out 2 of these so that they both would match. And then I just used my small dot punch. Again, I think these are all Stampin' Up, and put the small dot on the slot punch, and then glue it on. Again, I like to use glue, but you can use whatever works for you. On his beak, I just cut out a triangle out of some yellow paper, and I use this stamp. I use 2 of these and just lay them on top of each other to make whatever that thing is called that the turkey has, and glued that together. And then I will just, I think I'll put the glue on this thing just because I don't know how big, and glue that down. And so there's his face pretty much. I like to add a little bit of glow to his eyes with a white gel pen, just to give him some personality. Now for the hat, I use Stampin' Up's tag punch, and I round the edges, and then I just cut a nice strip here and glue it on, and then I cut the bottom off, and I sort of trim up the edges just to what would look like a good hat. I put some silver ink, just rub some silver ink on the edges to give it an old look. And then I would glue that down, although I need to trim that up just a little better. Glue that down across the top of the turkey's head and place it on, right on, like that. I also have, I don't know where I got this, but I call it a belt punch that I use, and I cut this out of gold paper, and I basically just cut it in half because it's too big to use the whole thing, for his little buckle on the top of his head. And then I would glue that on. Just use a little bit of glue here to, hopefully I won't get it over everything, and glue that on. And so his head is done. Basically done, and he's going to go right on top of the pyramid. You have to kind of experiment on how high you want him up. You want to give him a little bit of a neck, so I keep it at the top. I put my glue right on the top of the pyramid card. Put a pretty good amount so it will hold, and then sort of estimate how high you want his neck to go. Like that. So his head is on. Just go back a little. And so that's the first step that I do. The next step, I used a different color this time for his feathered breast. And probably you should glue that on before you do the head. That might be easier. What I like to do is use the oval punches and just cut that peak off a little bit. So he's got a rounded neck. Now what I did for this is I cut a triangle smaller than the face of the box, and I used the bird punch. I'm not exactly sure what they call this, but it's the Stampin' Up! Punch from Bird, and I used the wing in there to make all these feathers, and then I just glued them across until I got to the top. And so you can glue this right on to the front. You can do it before you do the head if you want, but since I've cut, I like to cut that down and stop it there, give it an oval look. So I'm going to glue that right now. I'm going to put some glue on it. You can see the triangle that I made. Here we go. Plenty of glue. And stick that on so that it sort of comes down. I like it to come down right at the where these two meet, where the two triangles meet. And there you have his feathered breast. Now this, I love to put on a little bit of a collar onto his, and to have it come up under. So I'm going to just, how I did this, I took my small oval and cut a piece out, and then I took the large oval and just went deeper in. And you make it as thick as you want and cut it. And then what you do is really just cut. What I like to do is lay it on here, fold it, so you know where to actually cut it, and then cut the ends off to make them square. And then you just cut a V, try to make it right in the middle, out of the center to make the collar. Now I put some distressed ink on it just so you could see it better. I like to just, I love Tim Holtz distressed ink. I use it all the time. It gives it an age. Like sometimes it just helps define the piece so you can see it if it's a similar color. And then you just add this to your work. Now what you could do, I have a couple of these left, so I may just glue the last feather right up in the middle. I think I will do that because I like that look. I always save that for last, so I'll know where to go with it. Right in the middle. And just press it down a little. So that finishes it off a little bit. So there's his feathered breast. So we're all set there. The next thing that I like to do is to put on his arms. Now, I have gone ahead and used the Stampin' Up! Punch to make the wings. I've scored it a little bit so that, or you can just fold it so that it'll have a nice crease when you, because you're going to glue it just below, right about here, oop, backwards, right about here, so that he has two arms. And let me put some glue on here, and then just glue it on. I do it right by the collar and give it a good squeeze. And the same thing with this one. And there we have it. His arms. And then what I like to do is, and you don't have to do this, but all of a sudden I've decided I like it better to have it cut the top part off. There you go. And then I try to fold it back so make sure it's nice and glued. There you go. So there he is. And so the last piece is the tail. Now this tail, I did it ahead of time because it does take a little bit of time, but what I used was the 3.5 inch